Today we're tackling the topic that's often hiding right in front of us, modern slavery. What are the signs, really, and how can just knowing about them actually make a difference? Let's get into it. Some cages have no bars. It's such a powerful statement, isn't it? Victims of modern slavery aren't always physically locked away. More often, they're trapped by things you can't see. Things like fear, debt, and intense psychological control. This whole explainer is about learning to recognize the signs of that invisible cage.
All right, so here's our game plan. First, we'll dig into the hidden nature of this crisis. Then, we'll build a toolkit for awareness, breaking it down into 3 key areas to look for: physical red flags, behavioral warning signs, and those critical situational clues. And we'll wrap up with what it all means.
You know, it's a question a lot of us might ask. Why don't they just leave or ask for help? The truth is, for the vast majority of victims, it is nowhere near that simple. And understanding why they can't is really the first step to seeing the problem clearly.
See, victims are often caught in this really vicious cycle of control. It all starts with psychological manipulation. They're fed lies about their rights or what will happen if they try to leave. Then you add this overwhelming fear of their captors who might be threatening them or even their families back home. And finally, they are deliberately, completely isolated from friends, from family, from anyone who could possibly help. These 3 things together, that's the invisible cage we were just talking about.
Okay, so now that we have a better handle on the problem, let's shift to the solution. We're going to build what I like to call a toolkit for awareness. And look, this is not about turning you into a detective. It's just about being an informed and compassionate observer.
And this right here is an absolutely crucial point. What we're about to go through are indicators, not proof. Think of them as red flags. Seeing one doesn't automatically mean someone is a victim, but it does mean a situation might need a closer look. It's all about being observant, not accusatory.
So our awareness toolkit is built around these 3 categories of signs. We're going to look at the physical, the behavioral, and the situational. It's usually when you see signs from these categories together that a much clearer and often worrying picture starts to form. Let's start with the most visible ones, the physical red flags.
The first set of indicators are physical. A person's body can often tell a story that their words can't, revealing neglect or harm that they might be trying very hard to hide.
So what does this actually look like? Well, it could be unexplained injuries, like bruises or cuts that don't have a good story behind them. It might be signs of neglect, like poor hygiene or wearing the same dirty clothes every single day. They might look malnourished or show a kind of exhaustion that goes way beyond just being tired. We're talking about that bone-deep fatigue that comes from brutal working hours with 0 rest.
Okay, let's move on to our second category, behavioral signs. This is about how a person acts, how they react, and how they interact with the world. Their conduct can be a massive clue to the unseen pressures they're dealing with.
Now, what's really interesting here is how these behaviors connect directly back to that cycle of control we talked about. A victim might seem constantly fearful, anxious, or on edge. They might show a surprising fear of police, often because their captors have threatened them about talking to authorities. You may notice they are never ever alone or aren't allowed to speak for themselves. And if you do get a chance to speak with them, their story might sound rehearsed or inconsistent because they've been told exactly what to say.
And that brings us to our third and final set of indicators, situational clues. You know, sometimes the most telling signs aren't about the person at all, but about their environment, where they live, where they work, and just their overall circumstances.
So here, you're really looking at the context. Do they seem to live and work in the same exact place, and are they unable to leave? Is their movement restricted? A huge red flag is if they don't have control of their own ID or passport. Traffickers almost always take those away. And of course, there are the classic signs. Working extreme hours for pennies or nothing at all with absolutely no days off.
And this slide just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? On the left, you've got the hallmarks of a regular job, getting paid, having time off, freedom of movement. But on the right, you see the polar opposite, the signs of exploitation. This direct comparison makes those situational clues crystal clear.
So, the most crucial point here is that you don't need to be an expert to make a difference. Your role is simply to be an aware and informed observer. Just knowing what to look for is the most powerful first step you can possibly take.
So let's bring that toolkit together one last time. Just remember the 3 lenses. Number 1, look for the physical signs of harm or neglect. 2, observe the behavioral cues like fear and isolation. And 3, assess the overall situation. Keeping these 3 categories in mind is how you become equipped to see what might otherwise stay hidden.
So we've looked at the problem, we've looked at the cycle of control, and we've gone through a practical toolkit for awareness. The only question left is this. Now that you know the signs, what will you see differently in the world around you?